Let's turn to the story that's breaking at the moment. The Indian Navy has now issued a formal statement on the U.S. attack on an Iranian warship in the Indian Ocean. The Navy says Sri Lanka got a distress call from Iris Dena, the ship. Navy says the distress call came in the early hours of March 4th and we launched efforts to augment Lanka's search. Navy says INS Tarangini was deployed for aid. INS Ikshak also sailed from Kochi. Navy says coordination with the Lankan side is ongoing. Remember, this was a ship that was engaged in military exercise, naval exercises with India off the coast of Visakhapatnam only a few days ago. Shivani Sharma, who tracks defense, joins us. Shivani, the Indian Navy seems to be engaging in some kind of damage control because there's been a lot of criticism over the way in which this warship was torpedoed a few days after the exercise. Is the Indian Navy slightly on the back foot here, or is it putting all the blame in a way on America? Did they have any knowledge at all of American submarines in the area?
See, Rajdeep, the clarification has now come from the Indian Navy side in a formal statement that has been issued a while back, where they are saying that in the early hours of 4th of March, that was yesterday, they had this knowledge of the Iris Dena raising a distress call to Colombo, since it was in the area of responsibility of the Sri Lankan Navy. But certainly they joined the operation. They not only started patrolling with the P-8I, that is the long-range patrol aircraft that Indian Navy possesses. Mind you, that is also an American aircraft that is used by the Indian Navy for surveillance purposes. Not only this, another aircraft was pushed into action, 2 ships, the INS Tarangini that was in the close vicinity. And as per rule, whenever this kind of a distress call is raised, Rajdeep, no matter which country, no matter what is the situation, on humanitarian grounds, the search and rescue operations are to be taken up by the Navy. And that's what has happened here. That's what the Navy is now saying. That they
But did the Navy have any idea of this U.S. submarine in our in close proximity?
That still remains a question, Rajdeep, because Navy has not said anything about this U.S. submarine. But generally, whenever we've been asking questions about the presence of the foreign entities into the Indian Ocean region, the answer which we've been getting is that everything is being monitored. But yes, it is also clear that Navy has not said anything about its knowledge in this particular location about the U.S. submarine. But yes, it is saying that it joined the rescue operations and they reached there at 4 o'clock yesterday. And since then, they are engaging in these search and rescue operations.
Okay, Shivani Sharma joining us with those details. I appreciate you being there at the top of the news. Okay, so let's raise the big question. Does India need to strongly call out the US-Israeli aggression? Is quiet diplomacy better than empty rhetoric? Can India stay neutral in this war? Is the US sinking an Iranian warship in the Indian Ocean a wake-up call? Joining me now is Ashok Kanta, former Indian ambassador to China, joins me. Brahma Chelani, strategic affairs expert. He's been writing on this. Vice Admiral Satish Soni, retired former naval commander, also with us. I want to come to you, Admiral Soni, Vice Admiral Soni first. Let's start with the warship issue. I'll come to Khamenei later. But do you believe that this is an embarrassment to have a diplomatic military exercise being conducted just days ago? The ship is on its way back and then gets targeted by a U.S. Submarine torpedo. Or do you believe this is fair game? We are in war, and when you're in war, expect the unexpected.
Well, thank you so much, Rajdeep, for having me on your show. But let's get the fact of the matter straight. 3 Iranian ships participated in the International Fleet Review. In fact, at the anchorage, there was only one of them, the frigate, which eventually was sunk, that is INS Dena, and there were 2 other ships which hung around outside. They departed Visakhapatnam on the 25th of February. 25th of February, they set course down south. Indian Navy, I don't think, was aware. So many ships came, they departed wherever they had to go. So Indian Navy was not aware as to which is the next port of call. But apparently, there was a surveillance which was carried out by the P-8I, and they found one of the ships off Colombo on the 28th of Feb. Apparently, the ship had 2 medical casualties to disembark in Colombo. I suspect that from the 25th when they departed to the 3rd when the ship was sunk, these ships were hanging around in the sea lines of communication, either waiting for orders from the Iranian Navy as to what should happen, because it is quite illogical to sail into the war zone when you are not even armed. Or they were probably seeking refuge in one of the ports in Sri Lanka. I cannot say for sure what happened. Now, the Indian Navy got this information on the 4th of March at 9 o'clock that there has been a sinking and rescue efforts are on. Indian Navy diverted INS Tarangani Warship and sailed 2 ships from Kochi and had the P8I on task. And there were 4 Sri Lankan ships who were carrying out the rescue. Now, in case of whether this is an embarrassment or not, now Iran and US are at war. Now, when you are at war, there is a legal connotation to this. There are laws of armed conflict. There is international humanitarian law. Ships, naval ships of either side of the belligerents, they are qualified military targets. So to be able to say that whether this was a legitimate action or not is...
Let me cut the chase, sir. Would India, what does it say that the Indian Navy was completely unaware of the presence of US submarines in the area?
Well, no Navy who has deployed their submarines in the Indian Ocean or whichever would divulge its position to anyone else.
But we have often claimed publicly that we have surveillance mechanisms across the region in the Indian Ocean.
No. Rajdeep,
we have claimed that that this is our area of influence.
It may be our area of influence, but to have an underwater domain awareness of the entire Indian Ocean is virtually impossible. It is not possible for even the US Navy or any other Navy.
Even 40 kilometers away from the Sri Lankan coast.
It may be any time, but it is not possible for any Navy to have complete underwater maritime domain awareness. In fact, what you talk of underwater, even surface domain awareness, it is not possible. So therefore, we have these white shipping agreements, we have satellite tracking systems, we have AIS responders on board ships, and that is to make out that to have as much maritime domain awareness as possible. And that is what we share with our littoral neighbors.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Okay, I take your point. Brahma Chalani, do you therefore go along that it's unfair to pin the blame on India? We may have had, at some level, a moral responsibility because they were our guests, but Iran and US are at war with each other. Therefore, the US could well claim, just as Iran is firing missiles at random targets recklessly across the Gulf, they've pinpointed and targeted an Iranian warship. Do you believe that the Indian Navy therefore can completely put its hands off and say this is a Sri Lankan, at best a Sri Lankan Navy issue since they were closer to Sri Lankan waters? Certainly there is no legal responsibility on India to be held responsible in any way for what happened.
Rajdeep, let's not talk about international law. First, the US has not declared war on Iran, despite conducting these strikes every day, hundreds of strikes every day, and yet the US insists that this is not war. Second, the US under Trump has trashed international law openly. Trump regards American power as legal authority by itself. As far as the laws of war are concerned, the Geneva Conventions, they impose a clear obligation. Once a ship is sinking, the attacking party must, as far as circumstances permit, search for survivors. The US submarine instead departed the area. The least the submarine could have done was to alert the Indian Navy so that the Indian Navy could mount rescue operation. The Indian Navy statement today talks about deploying assets hours after the Iranian frigate sunk in the Indian Ocean. But look at it from the broader Indian context. In the world of Indian diplomacy, The Indian Ocean region is considered India's primary area of influence. It is India's strategic backyard. India describes itself as, quote unquote, net security provider in the Indian Ocean region. The Indian Navy is supposed to be the guardian of the Indian Ocean. Yet a
But
foreign power...
here you have the Navy Vice Chief telling us, look, you can't monitor every little... it's not possible to monitor the Indian Ocean like this.
But look at it this way, Rajdeep. A foreign power conducting a high-intensity torpedo strike so close to Indian waters in India's maritime backyard, wouldn't that raise concerns in New Delhi? The fact that Iris Dena had just departed from India's Milan naval exercise in Visakhapatnam highlights a grim irony. A vessel invited by India for a friendship exercise was destroyed by India's major defense partner, the US, shortly after leaving Indian waters without India being informed about it. There was no coordination with India. What does it show? What does it show? That the US has effectively ignored India's role as a regional security provider. And there are larger questions because India has signed all the 4 so-called foundational defense agreements with India, like Limao, Comcasa. And the question today, the one question that we shouldn't ignore is that under these 2 military pacts, Comcasa and Limao, India and the US share sensitive maritime data. If the US attack submarine used shared data to locate and sink this Iranian frigate that had just departed Visakhapatnam, it would represent a foundational breach of the US-India defense partnership. So,
right.
So there's a certain message the US is delivering to India, that we don't care about India, about its regional role. We don't care about Prime Minister Modi's vision of Mahasagar, that we will do what we think is appropriate. As the US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said, that we don't care about laws of war and that we will pursue our war with no mercy.
Right. Okay, those are very strong words coming in from you, Chelani, almost suggesting that this strikes at the very heart of the US-India defense partnership. You mentioned Geneva Convention. Geneva Convention 1949, Article 18. After each engagement, parties to the conflict shall without delay take all possible measures to search for and collect the shipwrecked, wounded and sick, to protect them against pillage and ill treatment, to ensure their adequate care and to search for the dead and prevent their being despoiled. The Geneva Convention Article 18 says, whenever circumstances permit, the parties to the conflict shall conclude local arrangements for the removal of the wounded and sick by sea from a besieged or encircled area and for the passage of medical and religious personnel and equipment on their way to that area. So India could claim they've subsequently followed Geneva Convention. But Ashok Kanta, it seems to have within 24 hours, this strike on an Iranian warship almost ensured that India has made a reach out to Iran. There's been a conversation between Dr. Jaishankar and his Iranian counterpart. And Vikram Misri, Foreign Secretary, has gone and signed the condolence book, condoling the killing of Ali Khamenei 5 days after he was assassinated. There were questions over India's silence. Has India finally been forced to speak out because of what happened?
Well, Rajiv, I would not like to see it as a cause and effect kind of situation. What happened in case of Iris Dena is deeply troubling, no doubt about it. It's problematic on many counts, as Professor Brahmachelani has also brought out. One, as mentioned, here was a warship which was participating in an Indian, goodwill naval exercise on its way back, clearly in a non-combatant role, and it's being hit like that. There are, apart from legal issues, there are serious, strategic signaling to India that what is happening in our immediate periphery, USA doesn't quite take into account. From legal point of view, also, you referred to Article 18 of Second Geneva Convention, which has clearly been violated by U.S. submarine. At the least, it could have alerted Sri Lankan Navy and Indian Navy, even if it didn't want to surface to help, the stricken Iranian sailors. Equally important from our point of view, it is in violation of Article 58 of UNCLOS. This incident took place within exclusive economic zone of Sri Lanka. And our reading of Article 58 is that no such military activity can be undertaken without due regard being taken of interests of coastal state, essentially consent being obtained. USA has a different reading, no doubt about it. I'm aware of that. But India, almost entire global south, abides by interpretation I just referred to. That was also violated. But bottom line is that what has been done in a way is a part of pattern of behavior where USA engages in activities in India's neighborhood, whether it be in Pakistan, whether it be in Bangladesh, whether it be in coastal waters, EZ of Sri Lanka
with due regard, where
our concerns.
No, so where does this leave the US-India strategic partnership? Where does this, as is being suggested by Brahmachalani, we have this defense partnership, and yet US has completely disregarded in a way the Indian Navy or Indian government concerns, gone ahead, torpedoed an Iranian ship, which was our guest, which was a non-combatant in that sense. And are we saying that we just can throw our hands? Yesterday I had Admiral Prakash on the show, Arun Prakash, former naval chief, and he said India must show its displeasure. Ashok Kanta, can India show its displeasure today to America?
There are different ways of conveying displeasure, whether we do it publicly or we do it privately. But I think our deep concerns in this regard ought to be shared with Washington, D.C., because this is something which is clearly not acceptable. I would not like to link this incident in its aftermath with position we have taken on condemning, not rather condemning, but expressing our condolences on assassination of Iranian supreme leader.
Which but it took us 5 days. So with due regard, Mr. Kanta, it took us 5 days. It took us 5 days to break our silence.
Yes, which has its own message. And but I don't want to comment on that. There are considerations that my serving colleagues and political leadership of the country has to take into account. As private citizens, we can comment on it. That's a different matter altogether.
Okay. Brahmachalani, are you surprised that do you see some kind of correlationship between what happened to the Iranian warship off Sri Lanka's waters and India now signing that condolence book and making it clear that they condole at the passing away of Ali Khamenei? 5 days, there was no such comment being made?
There is a connection, Rajdeep. The Indian government is facing pressure both internally and externally. Let me first describe the external pressure. The US wants India to activate LIMOA, the military pact, to support US naval assets operating in the Indian Ocean. If India allows the US to refuel or repair its ships involved in the strikes against Iran at Indian ports, it would effectively end India's claim of neutrality. If India provides logistics, that is food, water, fuel, to the US 5th or 7th Fleet under LIMOA right now, India will be seen as a logistical accessory to the US war effort. And domestically, as the opposition attacks the government on different issues, there is pressure, at least there is political pressure from the opposition to suspend LIMOA while the war rages. But LIMOA and COMCASA are the two main agreements out of the four that are at the heart of the current dilemma that the Indian government faces. Let's look at it. Let's look at it in a larger light. That what this particular episode, that is the sinking of an Iranian frigate, has highlighted, it is that India needs to reduce its reliance on Washington. As Ambassador Ashok Kanta has very rightly pointed out, that in India's immediate neighborhood, whether it's Bangladesh, Myanmar, Pakistan, Iran, or the Indian Ocean, the US and India are not on the same page. In fact, the US is working against India's vital interests in India's own neighborhood. So India's reliance on Washington needs to be tempered. That's the message.
Okay. I want to get a final word then from you, Admiral Soni. Do you believe that the Indian Navy, in a sense, also needs to relook at this entire engagement with the United States? If the United States is going to take India and the Indian Navy and our defense partnership for granted, where does it leave us?
You know, India has started its engagement with the US Navy from 92. From then, our dependence on the US arms industry has only slowly been increasing. We, in return, get state-of-the-art equipment, which has helped us a great deal. And now we are into technology transfer partnerships. So there is much to gain from the US, there is no doubt. How this works in the greater geopolitical matrix and political affiliations and dependence thereof is something for the political leadership to decide. But Indian Navy has certainly gained a lot, but I am sure that we are not fools and we calibrate these associations, very critically, and we don't want to become over-dependent. There is a lot of emphasis which is given on indigenization, especially in the Indian Navy. We are building ships which have got up to 88% of indigenous content. So I think we will continue to have engagement with the US Navy, that there is no doubt. Let us not get very passionate about these things. But of course, we have to have a
The
firm
question is whether we have to draw some lines, now with the United States, and maybe this episode says there are certain red lines that cannot be crossed. And maybe that's the message in a way that needs to be given even to the United States, which is unofficially at war with Iran, but officially has not declared war as yet. I appreciate my guest joining me here on my top talking point. Okay, joining me now from Israel, a special guest, Shosh Bedrosian, is spokeswoman for the Foreign Media Office of the Prime Minister of Israel. Appreciate you joining us, Ms. Bedrosian. I want to ask you at the very outset, we are in day 6 of this ever-escalating conflict that the US and Israel is waging with Iran. Do you have any timeline in mind? Is this now going to take weeks, as many fear? The US president says 4 weeks and more.
Sure. So Prime Minister Netanyahu has made it clear this could take some time. Remember what we are dealing with. We are dealing with a regime who has been in place for almost 50 years now, 50 years of tormenting the people of Iran, limiting their rights, having no free choice, women having no rights at all. We're dealing with a regime that has called for the annihilation of the state of Israel and the United States as well. So we are targeting them to ensure that the people of Iran can take matters into their own hands, ensure and create this pathway that they can create their own destiny and take destiny into their own hands and make something of their lives. So in terms of a timeline, the Prime Minister made it clear it could take some time.
Okay, let me break down what you've just said. Sometime. What does sometime really mean? Because we're told that your Secretary of Defense, your Defense Minister, has spoken to the US Secretary of Defense, Peter Hegseth, and Mr. Hegseth reportedly told him, keep going to the end. We are with you. Now, what is this end? When you say sometime, what is the end game here, ma'am?
Well, I'm glad you brought up the United States, because Israel and the United States are working closer than we have ever worked before. We have made historic gains together in this operation, Operation Roaring Lion, to take out the regime, their military capabilities, in addition to their ballistic missile capabilities, any defense capabilities that they might have. So in terms of the collaboration and the cooperation between the United States and Israel, this is unprecedented. In terms
it cooperation or collaboration, or is it Israel leading and the US simply following the playbook of Israel? Remember, there was a New York Times article 2 days ago, ma'am, which said that it was Netanyahu who pushed President Trump into this war. So is Israel now going to direct the timelines of this war? You said sometime. I come back to it. Is Israel going to decide, or is the United States going to decide?
Well, a report like that is just simply outrageous. The prime minister has addressed this, and he's made it very, very clear. No one can push President Trump to do anything. President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu are clearly very, very, very much aligned in terms of taking down this threat, a threat that has called for the annihilation of both of our countries. And look now, you can see that Iran, the Islamic Republic of Iran, is now targeting countries across the region, the Middle East, in addition to a European country, Cyprus as well. This is not only a threat to us. So in terms of your question of cooperation together, it is unprecedented. We are working hand in hand together. Both of our armies are incredible.
But to what end game? Ma'am, you're working hand in hand. I take your point. To what, ma'am, sorry, to what end game? What is the end game? Nobody is clear on what is the end game. You're telling me that you want the people of Iran to rise. I mean, surely Israel and the United States cannot decide what kind of a government Iran wants. The people of Iran will decide.
And that's absolutely correct. And that's exactly what the prime minister has said. The people of Iran need to choose, and they need to have that ability to choose. Now, what we are doing is creating the pathway for the Iranian people to take their destiny into their own hands so that they can choose. So what does that take? That takes taking out this Ayatollah regime, a regime that has limited these people, these talented, brave people, for 50 years, living under oppressive terms. Like I said, going back to women's rights, women having no rights, no freedom of choice, no choice of who they can even elect as their leader. In addition, the Iranian people have suffered for 50 years in terms of not having water, electricity, access to basic necessities. And why is that? That's because the Islamic Republic of Iran has funneled billions of dollars in exporting terrorism, in creating ballistic missile programs and nuclear programs designed to annihilate any Western country, United States and Israel. The people of Iran have suffered, and the United States and Israel are working and making sure that the conditions for the Iranian people are paved so that they can take matters into their own hands for their future.
So presumably the end game is to create those conditions where you say the people of Iran can take matters in their own hands. But the fact is, ma'am, in the process, we are having hundreds of casualties, including of innocent people. There was this attack on a school, more than 160 young girls died. I mean, would you concede that that is unacceptable, that you've ended up killing young girls in a school? Is this the price of war that is going to be have to be paid?
Well, let me tell you, I'm glad you brought that topic up, because the Islamic Republic of Iran actually misfires about 30% of the time. And the only reason why you actually know that report that came out is it came out from Iranian state media, which who controls that? The government, a government who has been oppressing their own people.
Are you saying the government fired a missile are you saying the school kids were hit in a missile fired by Iran? Is that your stated position? I thought there was an investigation.
There is an investigation, and I'm just telling you what some possible outcomes could be. The IDF is, of course, investigating anything like this, but I'll make it very, very clear. And the Prime Minister has said this just the other day when the Islamic Republic of Iran targeted our civilian population on a daily basis. He said that it's very clear. Israel targets the terrorists inside of Iran and not the civilian population. We will do anything to ensure that the civilian population in Iran is protected, and that this is not a war and this is not an operation with the Iranian people. This is strictly to take out an Ayatollah regime who has been
in the process hundreds of casualties, ma'am. In the process, there is destabilization, and we still don't know what kind of regime, if at all there is to be a regime change, what kind of a regime will have. Is Israel and the United States arrogating for themselves the right to decide what is a regime acceptable to them, and in the process creating global destabilization of an unprecedented nature across West Asia and the world?
Well, I can't comment on any reports that are coming out of Iran propagated by the IRGC, because how can you believe an oppressive regime who massacres their own people? You and I both saw those horrific videos that came out in January and in February of up to 30,000 protesters murdered by the Iranian regime because they took to the streets protesting their own government. Now, in terms of, you mentioned destabilization in the region, the only thing that has been destabilized destabilizing the Middle East is Iran. Why? Because Iran has been exporting terrorism to Western countries for 50 years now. They have created three proxies that surround the state of Israel: Hezbollah, the Houthis, and Hamas. What happened on October 7th? We had a massacre of our own people by Hamas, a terror organization funded by the Islamic Republic of Iran, supported by them, trained by them. Their weapons are from them. So in terms of any destabilization, the Prime Minister has made it very, very clear that taking out the Ayatollah regime will only allow and could create the conditions of peace finally in this region, peace we have never, ever seen before.
But you see, what we are hearing, you're saying Israel wants to take out the Ayatollah regime, which you believe has heaped misery and is a cause of destabilization and exporting terror. The U.S. president says this is about Iran's nuclear capabilities. Now, the IAEA has made it very clear that there was no imminent threat that Iran was going nuclear. Now, this whole doctrine of imminent threat that has led you to make this response is under a cloud. How do you respond? What is the actual provocation that led Israel at this very moment to take this stand? There is a belief that Benjamin Netanyahu has been pushing every US president to do this for for several decades and finally found an ally in President Trump. But what is this imminent threat that Iran posed that has led to this kind of an attack, ma'am?
Sure, that's a great question. And Prime Minister Netanyahu has laid out why this attack and this operation needed to be carried out right now in a very urgent manner. That's because after Operation Rising Lion back in June and Operation Midnight Hammer with the United States in order to take out Iran's nuclear capabilities, we noticed and we saw that the Iranians were actually creating new underground bunker sites, working to expand their atomic bomb program, their ballistic missile program, saying and doing the complete opposite. So can you imagine that if we had to wait 3-4 years to create to do an operation like this, to not only protect the region, protect the Iranian people for taking matters into their own hands, it would be a very, very dangerous Iran. And that is why the United States, President Trump, and State of Israel, Prime Minister Netanyahu, saw that this was imminent. It needed to happen now because we knew what they were doing. They were building brand new sites.
But that's not what the IAEA says.
Why do they have these sites?
Madam, the IAEA says they have found no evidence that Iran is running a coordinated program to build a nuclear weapon. Is the IAEA lying, or are the United States and Israel lying? Because is this Iraq 2003 and the weapons of mass destruction lie all over again? You were looking for an excuse to target Iran, and Iran claims that they are retaliating only in self-defense. If a country is attacked, its territorial sovereignty is attacked, they will retaliate.
Well, I haven't seen those reports, and I'm not going to comment on what any other organization says. I'm here to provide you what the State of Israel's response is, in addition to the United States, and how we are working extremely hard to ensure that the people of Iran have the conditions to take matters into their own hands, but also for us to neutralize the threat of the Islamic Republic of Iran, to ensure that the Islamic Republic of Iran has no more weapons of mass destruction, has no more weapons to fire into our communities. You mentioned before that people are under attack in Iran. I'm not sure if you've seen the videos of people in Iran welcoming this cooperation between the United States and the State of Israel to free them from the oppressed regime.
I take your point, but I've also seen, ma'am, videos of people mourning the killing of Ali Khamenei, which is clearly a political assassination, targeted assassination of a head of state. I've seen those videos as well of people mourning.
Sure. I'm glad you brought up the Ayatollah Khamenei. And he is dead. He is dead because of our joint operation. He is someone who is behind. He is the leader behind the mass murder of up to 30,000 protesters, a leader who has led his country into economic despair, a leader who has allowed these proxies around Israel to target us on a daily basis, to pledge to annihilate the state of Israel from Hamas in Gaza, from the Houthis in Yemen, and their number one terror proxy and Hezbollah north of Israel in Lebanon. Ali Khamenei has been the number one person in Iran to to ensure that Israel is threatened. We are surrounded by proxies, that terrorism from Iran is exported to other regions around the world, threatening Europe, the United States, Israel, and other countries
does that mean that
around the world, as I said.
You believe that's the justification for the assassination of a head of state?
I'm just outlining for you who Ali Khamenei is, and I'm glad you brought it up because people need to understand who this man was and the damage that he did not only to the innocent people of Iran, trying to change their government because they know how oppressive it is, limiting the rights of these people, but also the danger he posed to the United States and Israel, specifically here in Israel.
I come back to my final original question, which is the end game. What is the end game, ma'am? You say that this could take some time. Now, is there any timeline at all? Because a protracted war clearly is not what the United States wants. At least that's what reports from the US say. Is Israel simply now going to use the military might that it has and is the aim to completely obliterate this regime and then have a regime which is completely conducive to what Jerusalem and Washington want? Is that the end game?
Well, look, nobody wants a prolonged war. The Prime Minister has made that very, very clear. In addition to President Trump, what we are strictly working to do here is to remove the immediate threat that the Islamic Republic poses to both of our countries. Their nuclear capabilities, ballistic missile capabilities, taking out their defenses, and their senior leadership who has worked tirelessly to oppress their own people, to cause absolute mass harm to American citizens, European citizens, and Israeli citizens on a daily basis. I want to walk your viewers through and your listeners right now. We have been in war because of an Iranian terror proxy starting on October 7th, Hamas. They launched a brutal war on us, taking more than 200 people hostage, murdering, massacring more than 1,200 people. We are here because of that Iranian proxy, Hamas. And that is the start for the last 2 years for the Israeli people. And the Israeli people are brilliantly resilient, remarkably resilient, going through 2 years of war because the Islamic Republic of Iran continuing to export terrorism and destabilize the region. I'll use one of your words for that one.
I'm going to leave it there. Shosh Bedrosian, spokeswoman for the Foreign Media Office of the Prime Minister of Israel. Appreciate you joining me. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, the big political story that's breaking this evening. The governor of West Bengal has resigned this evening. Sources in Raj Bhavan have confirmed it. The reason of his resignation is not known, but this has happened just before assembly elections are set to be announced within the next fortnight. Politics erupting over this sudden development. Chief Minister of Bengal, Mamata Banerjee, crying foul and tweeting, "I am deeply shocked and deeply concerned by the sudden news of the resignation of Sri C.V. Ananda Bose, Governor of West Bengal. The reasons behind his resignation are not known to me at this moment. However, given the prevailing circumstances, I would not be surprised if the governor has been subjected to some pressure from the Union Home Minister to serve certain political interests on the eve of the forthcoming state assembly elections. Union Home Minister just informed me that Sri Ravi is being appointed as Governor of West Bengal. He never consulted me as per the established convention in this regard." So clearly Ravi, who's been in the line of fire with the DMK government in Tamil Nadu, even the Supreme Court had pulled up Ravi on more than one occasion. Indrajit Kundu is now joining me from Kolkata. Indrajit, Ravi set to take over C.V. Ananda Bose on his way out. Do we have any reason being given as to why Ananda Bose has dramatically resigned just weeks before elections in West Bengal?
Well, Raj, there's no reason coming out so far from C.V. Ananda Bose's quarters. The Raj Bhavan. But, of course, the fact that Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee has now come out and posted on social media that Ravi is going to be replacing C.V. Ananda Bose, so that clears out the air that this was not just a general resignation, but it was, in a sense, removal of a governor for a new one. So, and already politics has started picking up, because the Trinamool Congress has gone on the offensive, saying that such a change of governor right at the fag end, when there's an impending election, is it because the BJP is trying to delay the elections and create a constitutional crisis? Is it a sign of that? Because even Abhishek Banerjee, just a few days back, when he was addressing the media, he said there are 60 lakh SIR cases which are pending right now for adjudication. And the Election Commission, in a sense, is literally running out of time. There are judicial officers who have been entrusted with this job to finish the SIR process. But unless it is done, how on earth can the Election Commission announce the election? So there is already a buzz within political circles in West Bengal that could there be a delay? Could there be a constitutional crisis in that case? There is a lot of apprehension that will there be President's rule? That's what the ruling Trinamool Congress has just reacted sharply, saying that, you know, it does indicate that the BJP is not confident heading into elections. So Mamata Banerjee will be out on the streets for a dharna over the SIR issue. One can only expect more fireworks over this issue as well.
Okay, Mamata Banerjee, we are told, is going on a dharna in any case tomorrow against this entire SIR exercise. So politics heating up in West Bengal ahead of elections. They're still waiting for an official statement from Ananda Bose as to the reasons for his resignation. The other big political story, Bihar's Chief Minister Nitish Kumar filed his nomination for the Rajya Sabha in the presence of Union Home Minister Amit, Shah, BJP Chief Nitin Nabin, other NDA leaders. Nitish Kumar is now expected to resign from the Chief Minister's post on March 16th, and the BJP is all set to have its first Chief Minister in Bihar, with the top contenders including Nityanand Rai, Union Minister, and Bihar's Deputy Chief Minister Samrat Chaudhary. But the Nitish era has slowly come to an end, with him exiting Bihar and moving shortly to the Rajya Sabha. Let me leave you with, though, a happier story of sorts. Weddings, celebrity weddings, cricket, Bollywood, big business, all coming under one roof for a wedding that looks straight out of a power-packed guest list. Sachin Tendulkar's son, Arjun Tendulkar, marrying an entrepreneur family, Sania Chandok, in a ceremony in Mumbai. He comes, of course, from Indian cricket's most celebrated household, and Arjun now begins a brand new innings, this time off the field. We wish him well, and I leave you with that story and those pictures from the latest celeb wedding. Thanks for watching. Stay well, stay safe. Good night, Shubhratri. Jai Hind, Namaskar.
India's cricket royalty celebrates a big family moment. Master blaster Sachin Tendulkar's son Arjun ties the knot. Arjun Tendulkar married entrepreneur Sania Chandok in a grand ceremony in South Mumbai, turning the evening into a dazzling gathering of cricket, Bollywood and business powerhouses. Arjun Tendulkar, who has played domestic cricket for Mumbai and Assam, featured in the IPL for the Mumbai Indians, grew up under the spotlight of Indian cricket. Sania Chandok, meanwhile, has carved her own path as a successful entrepreneur, running a thriving pet spa chain. The wedding took place at the St. Regis, Mumbai, where the Tendulkar family hosted a reception. From World Cup heroes to Bollywood legends, the guest list read like a Hall of Fame. Former Indian captain MS Dhoni arrived with Sakshi Dhoni, while head coach Gautam Gambhir joined the celebrations with Natasha Jain. Cricket stalwarts including Sunil Gavaskar, Rahul Dravid, Anil Kumble, Ravi Shastri and World Cup winner Yuvraj Singh were also spotted at the venue. And it wasn't just cricket royalty. Bollywood's biggest names also turned up for the celebration. The Bachchans and Shah Rukh Khan blessed the newlyweds. Arjun and Sania's journey from family acquaintances to friends and finally lovers was quietly sealed with an engagement last August. That story reached its biggest milestone on Thursday as the son of the god of cricket began a brand new innings. Arjun Tendulkar and Sania Chandok are now officially married. Bureau Report, India Today.